Good morning. All right. So finally getting some momentum here to the downside. And all picked up yesterday. And the tech shorts we put on. I don't know if anybody did the XLK. That one was good. Everything's going down. And where are they at? And where are they going? So Qs have been the worst. Right. And well, I guess they not worse as far as they started the correction anyway. And prices rallied right up into where historically, technically, they find sellers, even with, the strength that we saw at the end of last week. And I mentioned that, that isn't unusual. In the short term, it seems like, wow, such power, such strength, such buying. It'll follow through to the upside, but it's not unusual, to see that after, things break the way they did. So prices came up a little bit a little while ago and they're going lower, and 317, coming down close to this pivot low. Got a little ways to go. Typically, they break down through the prior low before they reverse. Now, this started down, yesterday afternoon, and well, it initially started and then rallied, and then the end of the day was like, oh, the cavalry isn't coming to the rescue this time to buy the dippers, and turn that into a bottoming tail bar and then push it higher. And it fell short of this low. Now it's opening, down here. So remember one day last week, what day was, I guess it was this day. Now the ranges aren't as big, but I just want to point out that when you have a red day, and so you look at that red day and say, well, how did it happen intraday? And so we had a continuous fall and then it accelerated, and now it's gapping down here, which should bring in some short covering and maybe some buying. We'll see how far that goes, but it's creating now a big void above. So shorts from overnight, got to make the decision. Do you buy? Do you cover? There's no sign of any significant buying as of yet, so we'll see what happens there at the open. But this is creating an overhead void. And what is this low? I don't know. 315 and change. It's not that far away. So I would think it's going to get there. And a lot of times it exceeds it by going down below. So let's compare that to the futures. You can see they're almost there. And as I said, this pattern is one in which it typically breaks the low. So I've got this widened area here to see where it's going to turn. It's already pushed down through 13,000. So it's through the whole number. And so I guess somewhere in here, I think would be the extent of a move today from this turn, down into here. Significant support levels. I didn't pull it all the way down to the pivot since it's such a big area, but the factory work is to recognize the area on a larger time frame, and then on an intraday basis, looking at a smaller time frame, like the 5 minute, to see if you get a trend change or a climactic type of move where it just accelerates to the downside, signaling that it's near the end short term. I think today's high, if it comes down here, wherever it's going to turn, there's always going to be the buy the dippers giving it a shot. I think today's high is going to would be pretty strong move if it could get up there. So, if the selling is going to continue and we see real weakness, it's never going to get up there today. But so I've marked off to yesterday's high, well, the overnight high here, which started there, as our reference point. And so we'll see where it makes the turn and then how far it can get. That's what we always do. And expect it breaks this low because, again, look at historical patterns, and that would be what would happen. S&Ps. Let's start with the spiders. So they have been the ones showing relative strength to tech. But we got the break of the two pivots, and we covered why this was significant because of this bottoming tail bar, this mini bottoming tail bar. It broke the low in reversal, so it was really bullish price action up here. While it jiggled around and it was so tight and going nowhere, the breakdown that failed creates a pivot, another reversal, and then it fails after making a new high. And that is, again, that's a significant break compared to, this corrective process. I explained that last week, which is relatively normal. It was a strong move up, and then it kind of just walked itself down here to make the turn. Whereas this consolidation or resting period with multiple pivots, buying the dip and creating support fails. And so the 20 was the turn spot. And in the weekend letter, I talked about the breadth internal coming up to the 0 line. Historically, that's a turn. So those were in alignment, and it's playing out. Now, 407, a little lower, seeing where they gap to, in the area of the rising 50 MA. We'll see if the institutions want to step up there. They did it once, so now it's a little higher. So the first time you expect it to work. The second time, less likely. So it's still going to be a focal point. And we see this pivot down here, which I've marked off with this bluish purple border, where it was at when I marked it. So, that pivot low, this pivot low at 404, obvious places. And so looking at the Qs going down and the NASDAQ futures going down to what we spoke about, seeing these maybe in that area, intraday maybe getting, I expect right at the open is going to be a real nasty NYSE negative tick extreme. I'll be interested to see how big it is. I would it move down like this, I would expect like a minus 1,500 or so, maybe 2,000. We'll see. And keeps trending down, and look, see if it accelerates into these areas down there. We'll see if we play the bounce. And SPX. So last I looked a little while ago, you could go all the way down to 4,000. There was juice. And I think that's a pretty safe bet today. Let me look again. Geez, you can go down to 39.80, which maybe. So look, there's a plenty of other juice up above, but we're not into this really to make a killing. I mean, you can do more contracts, of course, but we don't want to be anywhere close. So if there's stuff down below a giant whole number like that, and it's got to travel that far to get there, I mean, that should be a pretty reasonably high odds bet to sell a put credit spread. And there really wasn't a lot up above, surprisingly, but the big juice is way down here, and this is still falling. So maybe you want to wait 5 minutes. Maybe it gets a little juicier. I mean, it's right on the futures are right here on the 50. You got this pivot low. So we look at charts, we look at symmetry in a sense of how big moves were. And we could even kind of like project this, whatever 42.40 down to 40.40, and kind of like, okay, what's that distance in points? And we could do something like that. could do percentage, bar distance. Zero bar, because that would have been a cross. And ticks. All right, so whatever. We got some numbers there, and we could kind of do this. Sometimes this works out with these measurements. I'm just kind of eyeballing that. Believe me, it's nothing to be exact. There's nothing looking for the exact number here, but so 3960-ish. So that's a distance away, and it may take till tomorrow. So look, SPX credit spreads are, getting in the cage with the tiger. There's nothing to prove. So you don't have to get close, even though there's bigger numbers. Get far enough away. There's premium there. So why not go for what should be close to the sure thing? Right. Glenn's saying Fed minutes today at 2. Do you expect that to move markets? Well, no. We expect the jiggles, but it seems like the world is coming out against them for kind of being complacent with this inflation thing. So, I mean, if they should come out and say, hey, we've reconsidered our position and, we're going to start tapering, I mean, that could send the markets lower, where, there's talk, whatever, about, hey, they're being complacent. Maybe that's why the markets are going down.
Well, Greg, my personal take is these are just minutes. It's not a new meeting. So I think the time lag, it would be in the future, not in the minutes myself.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I wasn't even thinking about that, but look, you've got, different people there, got different ideas. I mean, it could even be one of them saying something. I mean, this other guy that used to be on the Fed, I just read, what is it, Summers, criticizing the Fed. And so, look, it's an unknown. Theoretically, what Dan is saying is, look, it's minutes from the past, but we don't know what they said. Maybe they changed their mind a little bit. So yeah, a little bit, these people that follow the Fed, it's like, oh, they said an before end. Oh my God. So look, it's a variable. Just get far enough away, just looking at the chart to say, look, probability is it ain't going down there. So, all right, what else we got here? Russell, obviously going down, just been big trading range. Well, it looks like it could go down, to the bottom of the range is, this little pivot down here, but there's really not much of anything to stop it. We didn't look at the Dow, 50 MA. So you got to know these different points where prices could stop. And the easiest thing to do is just set alerts, set an alert on the 50 MA on the Dow, set alert at the pivot. See what starts going off. If you watch them all, your head start getting dizzy watching all this stuff. You can trade momentum, saying, well, sure. You just need a plan on how to get on board. Okay. Bonds were down a little bit. Now they're turning back up. So they're just kind of flip-flopping around here. You can see the 10-year just flip-flopping back and forth. Well, the gaps might be significant. So Dan will review gaps, but whatever the gaps are, you got to see where they're gapping to. Oil coming in a little bit. So gold really not doing much. Just, it's reached this resistance area now. It's consolidating. And silver come down a lot. And we got, well, I've got silver stock trade on. I guess it's coming in a little bit, but it looked good. It was a 1, 2, 3. So we'll see what happens there. And let's take a look here. That's still holding up. And, everybody's watching Bitcoin. There's the collapse, hit the 200 MA. Big nasty red bar there. falling down into this pivot. So odds are it begins to stabilize. It's already bouncing off of that. So even, this is following, look to the left, moving averages align with that. All good. And lastly, the transports, they we usually don't get a bar pre-market, but that is moving down to 96. Yeah, right down at that pivot. So lots of stuff, moving lower as we always do. I mean, today is always Wednesday. Weekly, look at the weekly charts and how they're shaping up. This was a big red bar at one point last week and turned into a bottoming tail bar. But, I explained in the letter that's a slowing momentum bar and typically of a short term high. So, look, things pull back here. The weekly charts are in uptrends. Hopefully, whatever you're in, you're managing money management and so all that. So, thing is surviving and, of course, profiting at the right moments. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. Yeah, the story, the morning tech and Bitcoin. Wow. Litecoin and Ethereum down 40 something percent. And it's kind of interesting to me, these Bitcoin people are like, it's like a cult. I told you about my rich Canadian friend who, he says like, nope, I'm not selling it. It's going to 100,000. Well, I mean, he doesn't use technicals. And the other point is, I've been reading in Barron's for like over a month, maybe 3 months, about China's crackdown and coming after, the Bitcoin, and then, doing their own. And it's like now it's down 40%. What about the last 3 months that I'm talking about it? Did you have blinders on because you're in your bullish cult? But yeah, we nailed this monthly. We said that's a climactic sell setup. And I told my friend I do not buy anything that goes up vertical like that. Yeah, Daniel, anything gap under stops, we have a 30-minute rule. And yeah, of course, remember yesterday afternoon we nailed the turn, and I was so busy focused on managing our opens and then finding us, and Greg gave me a good list, and so we got into like five new directionals. We really put the pedal to the metal in the afternoon shorts. I wish I got us some more credit spreads. That's my only regret. So yeah, we were tightening stops, got out of a couple of them, and we just got to manage them now. All right, so Tesla, obviously, the crypto stocks getting hurt. That's a bearish gap down there, but it's far from the 20, making it not a low risk entry. Look at this Mara down $4. These things they're nasty gaps. I'm a coin. Remember we were talking about the sentiment when the IPO day? Look at that, went to 420, now it's 215. It's already cut in half in a month. Yeah. And you remember, I remember Square is also a player. And if my memory's right, they bought something like 1,750 Bitcoins at $53,000. And I remember the day they did that or announced it or whatever, we looked at it and we all shook our heads saying, well, you're surely paying retail. If you would have, joined our green room, I could have easily got you a better price than 53,000. Yeah, this was on our short list yesterday. I think Jake mentioned DHI was on my list. Marvel was a short under the low and it's gapping under the low. That would have been a nice one. Same with At Home. It just within pennies hit the entry yesterday under the low. Look at X. I just did. Oh, I have a nice profit. Well, if you were long, are you long or short? Let's start with that. Okay, well, I don't know why you were not out yesterday when we were in a shorting frenzy. Now stop 30-minute low, get out on a bounce. That's just kind of my textbook answer to that. All right, so coins and pain. Rita, gapping up, 93. It's a bio, no great pattern. There's a breakdown on the weekly and monthly. Anything green is bullish of the Dow 30. Yeah, no problem. That happens. That happens. No problem at all. Um, this is the only green Dow 30, and there's no patterns and no interest. T2 had earnings 172. There you go. That's a bullish gap. 30-minute high put spread T2. STE, no pattern. O2 was up pre-market. Now it's down, no pattern. PCS, bottoming pattern, but there's no something bar. TJX was up pre-market, now down. That's a mess. EXP, I just see one print here at 140, but it's not liquid, so we'll come back to it. ADI, gap breakdown. There's so many. Wow. That's like almost a triple top with a price void. This thing looks like it can go to 135, 140. So let's put ADI on our short watch list. These are all earnings here that I'm going through. A low gap down. Remember we said Home Depot yesterday? I said Home Depot under yesterday's low was a short. We got a big price void. Now let's keep an eye on that 30-minute low. Put it in another window. Let's see. Well, low also. I like them both. Low Home Depot. Low Home Depot. Short them both. All right, I'm already into my list from yesterday afternoon. This is a sell setup, UMH. We got a big gap down, so it's going to make getting into shorts harder here. Target earnings gap up 210. So you just mark it off 210. And it's gapping right to yesterday's high. Let's keep an eye on that. I'll put it in another window. Target 30-minute high. That could be a put spread or possibly even a long if it takes out yesterday's high. This was the one we just talked about, AJG. Now, if this one breaks up, if this can take out yesterday's high, then this is a bullish turn buy setup showing relative strength if it were to take out yesterday's high. So I'm going to set an alarm at 147.50. AJG, I think I already did. Oh, I set it at 148. I'm just going to lower it 147.60. All right. Texan, Greg mentioned yesterday. Yeah, McGraw, we think the sector's coming in, of course. Maxim, here's your DHI. This was Jake's trade. That looks lower. Corning we entered. We shorted that yesterday. We shorted Hewlett Packard. Beautiful sell setup right there. With weekly, monthly in alignment. Marble, like I said, triggered yesterday and the gap's too big. AMAT, XL was a bottoming pattern. Still is, we'll keep an eye on it. Win we were watching as a possible put spread, and I don't know, that thing bit me last week, so I stayed away. I'm CNK, nothing. Crowd. Crowd was relative strength yesterday. Now it's gapping down. I got no interest. Nicola, we're in bottoming pattern. PSTH, this is this Bill Ackman thing. We'll keep an eye on. SPAC. DM bottoming pattern we'll watch. FSR bottoming pattern we'll watch. Alpha Golf 1, 2, 3 over the week's high. That looks good. Plug bottoming pattern I'm watching. So ping. Yesterday's high is a swing. So I'm just gonna set an alarm at 37.10ish because it had a bullish close, showing incredible relative strength with the market falling off a cliff into the close, and this thing closing at the dead high. So now if it can reverse this gap, if it can reverse the gap and take out the high, then it looks, this is a fluid move. It looks like it should keep going. Yeah, Sapang and Amazon, yep. At first I thought it was a coupon company like Groupon. All right, ATHM, man, I'm sad we didn't get into that until the close. Darn it. That came from one of you all. It's beautiful. Look at T2 here, middle window, relative strength, but I'm not chasing anything here. Nothing for me. That's a nasty gap in spiders. SNBR was another beautiful short Greg found for us. That's beautiful. Go ahead and tighten the stop already. How about 108.72? Yeah, let me look at JP Morgan. But yeah, at least we got out of half already.